I truly don't think people are giving possibly The Greatest Alchemist enough credit, especially when it comes to its handling of the concept of slavery in this isekai. Prior to this episode, I think it was already handled pretty damn well. You know, essentially where our MC Takumi was summoned to, this kingdom, it's really a overly complicated job contract. That's really what it boils down to. Of course, we know on the other side of the world, where we keep getting these time skips to present day, slavery is without a doubt what you assume it is in our own world. And prior to this episode, I think they handled it very well. And you don't look at the girls in question as only being there because they have a gun pointed to their head, or characters are falling in love or overly infatuated with our MC because of said contract. But this episode did, I think, put that bow. The present was wrapped prior to this episode, but that bow is what really seals the deal. And I think anyone who's still deadass saying this is a generic isekai or a run-of-the-mill power fantasy harem are just ignorant. I mean, I'll put it nicely. Because at the end of the day, Takumi, being an MC who's from a world seemingly similar to ours, because that's why he was initially against buying a slave to begin with, it's kind of serves as a twofold thing. One, his own opinions of slavery and wanting to abolish the contracts, because forcing you guys to come with me into the pits of hell, I'd be a piece of shit. I very much care about you guys. I don't want to force you to do something. But it also serves as a secondary thing that really highlights the fact that he's ignoring their own feelings. And I think it's just such a brilliant scene, and it really does, as I say, tie a bow to this whole thing, because while they could have went the route of abolishing the contract and keeping them, with him, at the end of the day, our opinions and our feelings, similar to Takumi, when it comes to contracts essentially binding them to our MC, are irrelevant, because in this world, for this kingdom, those contracts are not seen as a negative thing. It is not a gun to their head. It is not a disgrace. If anything, that contract, it personally ties them to who they consider their master, and really no different than some paperwork to get you married or whatever. It's something they value. So to ask them to destroy that contract and still stick around would actually be hurtful to these characters. And I think that's such a brilliant way to elevate this show and take these tropes that are often eye-roll worthy, because you're like, these girls are only with the MC because of a slave contract, and they're falling in love because of Stockholm Syndrome when you really think about it. This show says, we're actually going to make it emotionally sweet, which I don't think I would ever say about an isekai, that I'm actually think the concept of a slave contract is sweet. But this isekai, it got me saying things I never thought I would, and, haters gonna hate, but the show's great. Of course, if you want to support my work, see my full thoughts on these episodes, we got the Patreon full and cut live reactions available exclusively over on Patreon if you're so interested. So, a lot happened. I have a feeling by the end of episode 12, we're no longer going to have time skips, and we're going to be both perspectives are, on the same level. Really hope we get a season 2, because they're building up a lot. But Takumi, he made some progress this week. So we get a golem. Personally, I like the simplified cutesy design. So the initial design of Titan, I thought was perfect. I thought it was adorable. And when I saw him shrink into a miniature size, pocket size almost, I was like, that's the cutest freaking thing. I love it. And I'm not going to deny the fact that his new form, after he got buffed up, it kind of looks like RuneScape armor when you get your armor trimmed in RuneScape. He's looking fresh. I ain't going to deny. But it's the fact that he has like his own like mobile suit, essentially. And I think the whole reason for it is that it kind of adds an extra layer of defense. Of course, our boy Titan could fight by himself, but if he's inside that suit, if the suit gets damaged, then he can still keep fighting, sort of a deal. It's cool. I like it. I don't know. It's like the combo wombo is just really, really cool. And I love the idea of the voice they gave it. It kind of just sounds like an energetic AI, like, little brother. Like, that's the best way to put it. It's just so cool. And I like the fact that after basically an attempted assassination, our boy's not just sitting idly by. He's not just waiting saying, we'll see what happens. Yeah, he has guards right now, but what happens when he's not around? Do you want to wait for people to jump you when you get back home? So essentially, he's developing an overly complex magical security system. So basically, the only people who could go through it are those who he's approved. So it's almost like facial recognition, or the equivalent that, you try to get through a door, it scans your retina. Apologies, you're not allowed to get through. It's going to be similar to that, but maybe with like a electric fence twist that if you try to push through and it says no, that maybe it zaps you like Zeus or something. I don't know. But obviously it makes sense to have something as a guard, and I think an object at face value, a bunch of rocks that moves around, is a pretty good idea. They gave it a voice though, so now I'm even more attached to it. Even prior to it having a voice, I thought to myself, I will be more sad if Titan dies than I will if any of the girls die. It's like the adorable pet, man. You can't do me like that. It's just a smart play, but like hands down, I think the best part was that conversation where he's, essentially spitting on them, being like, you're not asking our feelings, you don't see how much we value the contract. It really doesn't come across as their feelings towards our MC are that because he's a slave owner, but because this is the person they chose to serve and protect. And I don't remember seeing a show handle that concept this well before. They also do confirm, it was kind of clear, I mean, I was even saying it earlier into the episode, that, like, yeah, it's pretty clear that ultimately, and I mean, if you watch last week's video and some videos I've talked about this, it does seem like the present day stuff is targeting Takumi, and probably those summons were also summoned to target Takumi because, this kingdom is getting so advanced because of his influence, and this other kingdom, which is very much a toxic environment, is trying to stomp on that, right? At the end of the day, though, it is now pretty much confirmed that, yes, this goddess, it wasn't just a freak accident. Like, she's very much trying to stop evil spirits, evil people, and trying to build something of a defense, and that's where our boy comes in. It still is refreshing to have a goddess who not only supported us, hooked us up, gave us essentially tutorial mode. At the end of the day, like, is she using us to help prevent bad things from occurring? Sure, but I don't think our boy's currently looking at his life as bad. Like, he's very much built up a very good second chance life, and to, ask him to, risk his life to protect all these new connections, I don't really think is a bad goddess sort of a deal, so I quite enjoy that. Either way, really good show. I mean, the first, 6 episodes of the show I thought were really enjoyable, really solid. I mean, times I felt like it was great, but mostly it was a good show. But yeah, the second half of this, especially with how they've deep dived the world building, has actually elevated this to a pretty great show. I think it's incredibly undervalued, underappreciated. People look at a poster image, see a bunch of girls and generic looking MC, and they say, oh, power fantasy harem. I feel more familia bonds than anything with most of this dynamic, and even knowing that we're building into the last girl being introduced, who I guess will fill the role of a tank, at the end of the day, this actually is pretty damn solid, and I'd say has more in common with, that time I got reincarnated as a slime bonds, rather than a run-of-the-mill generic harem like you're some dude with a cell phone in another world, Great stuff. You let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Blood iOS, Samantha, Paultar, Claire, A, Edvar, Golden Angel 1517, Ashura, Thrilled Axis 709, and we also have Proof Space. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.